Hello and welcome to another edition of the eCommerce Odyssey podcast. I'm here with Nicholas Bailliache from eStreamly. Nicholas, please tell us about your company.
Hi, I am so excited to be here today. So eStreamly is a live and video commerce platform. We enable brands to go live through a live event where they can we will overlay a buy button on top of their video and people can engage, and most importantly, people can buy directly from the live.
So I'm very interested in live shopping because I think it's huge in China, isn't it? But we haven't really seen it too much in the West.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, in China, it already represents 15% of the total e-com. So when you think about it, right, it's a pretty huge chunk. But more importantly, it's the growth of it has been really astonishing. It started in China in 2015. And so in a matter of 6 years, it's already like this huge element. And I think one of the reasons is people just love to engage through video and have that instant conversation. Really enable brands to sell more, and we're seeing a very high conversion rate.
Okay, so how did you get the idea for the company?
It's an interesting story. So I met my partner through Ethereum Hackathon here in Atlanta in 2018, and we kind of always wanted to bring people at the center of commerce. So we've looked at different technology through blockchain, AR, VR, and everything. But the reality is most of those tech are really, we're really not ready to scale or very complex to develop. And we kind of stumbled into live stream back in 2020, looking at what was going on in China. And we felt, hey, the tech is ready. We should really go. And so we started to develop since.
Okay, so in China, right? It's obviously it's a very different ecosystem. They've got things like WeChat are really big in China in the way that they aren't quite the same in the UK. How is it that Chinese merchants are advertising are launching their live streams, and do we have that kind of infrastructure in the West?
Well, I think the reality is, as you speak about WeChat. In China, the consumer is more used to shop everywhere. In the US or even in Europe, we are very much in silo, right? If you want to shop, you go to Amazon. If you want to shop, you go to your own D2C website or you go to eBay or whatever. In China, WeChat, that's the app that does everything, and you can shop any product anywhere from that app. And so there's really no barrier. There's really no one place where you go to shop. The shopping happen everywhere. And so I feel that's why there's a big difference between the Chinese and the European on that stand front.
So so talk us through firstly, can you tell us about how it works in China, right? And then tell us a bit about how your system works and how people can run a successful campaign.
Yeah, so if you think about in China, obviously you have different live stream commerce platform, which you can go. You have Taobao and some others, Pinduoduo. So those are platform where you can actually go and enter the live this way, or you can also be just browsing your WeChat, whatever, and then you end up into a live stream that way. So there's really multiple point of entry from the standpoint on the Chinese market. Now, if you look at what we are doing here in the US, we are doing it in a slightly different way. We are broadcasting your live on your website directly, and that's where we actually seeing the biggest and the highest conversion rate. So with that, your website become to be like a point of destination where the video happen. But the other thing we do is we use social media as a way to broadcast the event. So we will distribute that to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and some of this. So like you're doing for this podcast, for example, right? You are recording the podcast, but at the same time you are broadcasting it on YouTube. So we deploy that as a way to augment your options for consumers to actually see your content.
So what kind of brands do you work with? Is it, because I'm just thinking, is it that you need to be a large brand that already has a big following to make this work?
Yeah, so it's actually, that's a really awesome question. I think it's not so much about like the size of the following. I think it's more about how do you go after reaching out your customers. So if you work with an audience, or if your product is more like geared toward, like, I will say, generation that, maybe is 40 plus, 40, 50 years old, then live commerce might not be the right medium for you, because the reality is the shoppers are really more on the Gen Z Generation Z, younger folks. Now, the way you want to think about it is obviously we do work with brand. That's our primary type of people we work with. We do have some content creator as well that are interested. But the reality is you want to have the ability to communicate with your audience. So we have a lot of brands that wants to go live, but then they will go live and not being able to engage their own audience because they don't know who their customer are. And so how do we create that, that emotion, that interest that the live will have. But you also have like some very tiny brand that may have, 200, 300, 500 followers, but they're able to convert very high. It's not so much about the size of the following, it's about like, do you know your audience? How do you engage that audience? Are you able to communicate with them? And are you, smart enough about what you say and how you want to bring that event to life?
Okay, so do you work with, are you mainly working with direct to consumer brands, or are you working with retailers? What kind of businesses does this work best for?
Yeah, so I think there's really different. If you look at the landscape, you can be a brand. So we do work predominantly with brand, D2C brand. But there's a whole market for retailers, and retailers will have a different needs than regular D2C. But yes, we see that it's really on our side at eStreamly, we work mostly with brands and creators, but not so much with retailers.
Okay, so what kind of process should a merchant go through to run an event? I mean, I'm talking. Yeah. What is the onboarding process?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it depends by company you go after. But if you for it to try with eStreamly, for instance, the onboarding process is pretty straightforward. The first thing we'll ask you is like basic company info and everything. We'll hook you up to your current e-com. We do integrate with Shopify, WooCommerce, and Square. And so that will enable us to kind of pull your product library, push your product once the order is done. We will integrate with your payment process if you do have access to your payment key, or we will use our own payment process depending on which solution you will want to go with. And then to create your event, you will have your own platform and say, hey, I want to be live that day and at that time. And then you will add the product that are your product, the discount that you have, the integration, and then you go live. The reality is more about going to the live is very easy. In a matter of, we had a client in a matter of like 24 hours, he had his live setup. It's more about how do you activate your audience so people can actually tune in when you go live.
Okay.
So that's
before we go, what's the cost? Just before we get onto the kind of what makes it successful, are we talking about, tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars? How do you charge?
Oh yeah. So we do charge by transaction of sales. So
okay, so
it's very straightforward. You're successful, we're successful. You're not successful, then you can walk away. You haven't launched much.
So it's a success fee, basically. It's a
success fee. It's a success fee base. We do at the moment charge anywhere from 5 to 8%, depending on what kind of service you want, and depending like if you want some extra service and features, we may charge a subscription anywhere from $50 to $100, $150, depending on.
Okay, so it's success based. You don't need to. It works like almost like a kind of marketplace thing.
That is correct.
Do that. Okay, so we're getting onto the nub of the matter. So the onboarding is easy. Give us your top tips for running a successful event.
Yeah, and that's really the key, right? And what we're seeing is it's not so much about creating your event; it's about advertising your events. And my recommendation is really working through, obviously, your customer. You have to create anticipation and excitement about your event. And so what you want to do is like, you want to have at least 2 weeks preparation for that event. So you will be sending a subscription to an email to your subscribers saying, hey guys, we'll be live on Tuesday, come join us. You want to create some momentum around maybe having a special offer, or creating like a special drop at that moment, like maybe a product that they never know, or maybe you have the founder of the company that will join, and then you have a pretty exciting community So now they know that they have the founders there. Or maybe you want to integrate with maybe like a celebrity or someone that is well known in the community that will be there as a host. So you want to create some kind of an excitement that is just beyond the live itself, like to really have the audience tuning in. You want to communicate that frequently. You want to tell them like maybe 2 weeks in advance, and then you want to send them a reminder a week in advance, and then 3 days in advance. And then what we do is like we try to automate that process on our site. So we've created some templates to help you out doing that. But then up to the sending a text message like 5 minutes before the event, because 75% of the viewers will be coming from their phone. So that's a really interesting point. And so you want to create that anticipation, and it's really like the successful live are really about well preparing that event, so people are excited to come and actually tuning in for the event.
What about this? So what about the creative? So I must confess, I've never seen a live event, right? So the event itself, how does that normally work out? What makes that successful? Is it a bit like, you know, I've accidentally turned on to shopping channels at one point? Is it like that, or is it different?
Yeah, it's what will make them successful. So obviously, you know, the number one driver of audience will be from your email list. So that's the number thing. The other thing that we see is like, obviously when we stream to social media at the same time as your own website, you will see that you will have some engagement on social media for your live. However, the conversion rate, like the actual transform of that into sales, is very low. We're looking at 1 to 2%, while on your website is anywhere from 18 to 40%. So you really want to bring people to your website.
So why do you think there's a difference? Is it that, you know, people are browsing social media and it's just one of the things they see where they've specifically gone to your website? And
that is right. And it's really about like the awareness of the user. If they're on your website, that you probably have communicated with them before, they may not be ready to purchase, but now that you are live, they can ask you the question that really are important to them. And now the purchase and the conversion rate is much higher. And that's what, you know, the big difference we're seeing with retailers, where, you know, retailers will do a lot of live stream, but they don't have a good conversion rate because they have so much and everything to offer that the audience is not maybe tuned in for that specific product they're looking at. So having a live on your own website, that's where you're going to drive a lot of conversion.
How long? So if I can imagine, so imagine we've done our emailing list, we've promoted that, we start the event. What is a good event book? How long should the event be? What kind of, you know, is it like an advertorial, or is it more like a kind of a, you know, what kind of content? How does it look?
Yeah. So what we always recommend is really to think about creating genuine content, right? So that's the most important. Going live, a lot of people are afraid of going live. They think a lot of people are thinking going live as creating a video. And the reality is, on a video, you probably to create a 2 minutes video, you're probably going to take 3 hours, because there will always be something that you say that you don't like and you want to read it and so forth. With the live stream, you press a button, you go live, and you start talking. And so it's really like there's not that much that fear of perfection. Perfection doesn't exist on live stream, and so you should remove that. And so the idea is that when you go live, our recommendation is to say 30 minutes. Because you want a minimum of 30 minutes, because the reality, if you do less, what we're seeing is that generally the top of engagement is around 25, 28 minutes. So you want to have people tuning in, right? So you want to do at least 30 minutes. And then from that point, not that standpoint, you want to be genuine about the brand. You want to talk about the product. You want to maybe do, like, you can do an interview. We are seeing really different styles. So we have brands that will do a recipe, for instance, and not talk about the product specifically, but like using the product in the context of something else. So that's really interesting. Or there may be an interview where the person is going to interview the founder and then talk about
I'm losing you somewhere. The connection's gone for some reason. Can you say something again? The connection's gone. You're sounding like, let me just check that no one is doing anything in the house. Everyone watching TV or anything? Is it on the internet? You're not watching any videos, are you? Noah? Is the connection still on? Okay, it shouldn't be any reason. Maybe it's just a bit rubbish. Maybe it's just a bit rubbish. Can you say something again?
Okay. So
that's fine.
So
you were that seemed just went rubbish. We'll just you were saying something about the founder going the video. So it screwed up at that point. So we were saying
So you want to go
just start from the what you're saying about the founder, a video getting on the founder and stuff, talking about it.
So maybe you want to create a video where the founder is actually being interviewed and telling about their story and why they care about the product so much. So the content is really about creating genuine content. You don't need to have like a super polished studio or like a super fancy studio. I think you just want to have a room that is nice, with a nice background, nice lighting, nice audio, and then you want to go live and try it out and really don't overthink it. That's the biggest advice that I will give you is don't overthink it. Just try. You will be surprised.
Okay, that's good. I always like a thing where you can set it up cheaply, give it a go, and learn as you go along. And I think this sounds like that. So what kind of
and the reality is, you will see, a lot of brands are thinking it through an ad, and so they're saying, okay, I'm spending 50K on an ad, and I want to spend that on my live stream, and that's a bad idea. In my point of view, if you like, depending on the brand, you want to do and try cheap, but use that money to do it frequently, because what's going to make you win on this game as opposed to is like the frequency and the repeatability. Like Trevor, you have this podcast, right? I think the first 10 episodes were not it, right? It really took that consistency to create that heat and momentum. And live stream is the same thing. You want to create that heat and momentum.
The same with YouTube. I think you say you need to post once a week, every week for 2 years, and then you begin to get somewhere.
Yeah, well, you don't have the good thing with live streaming is like, hopefully you don't have to wait 2 years. What we're seeing is like really at the fifth, by the fourth or fifth live stream, you start to significantly see really good sales.
So if you're a brand, what does success look like? I mean, I know you had a good example of an amazing Chinese brand that sold a tremendous amount of stock.
Yeah.
How well? So just you tell us firstly what the very best people do, and then tell us what think a starter could expect.
Yeah, so the really best people is, I think it's obviously in China, and you've got the lipstick king, who was able to sell for $1.7 billion of goods in a 12-hour live stream. So think about that, right? 1.7, that's a lot of product moving. So that's really like I would say the best in class. What we're seeing actually here in the US is that generally people will start with a 10% conversion rate. They will be able to drive at their first live, maybe 100 people on the live, and then that will grow from there. So, it's really getting that 10, 15, 20% conversion rate. That's where you're going to get. And don't be discouraged, because the reality is, even if you are not able to drive people through the live, what we're seeing, especially in the US market, is that the conversion rate don't happen so much on the live. The beauty happen really after the live. And so people will check your content. They will start to learn about your product. You can repost it. You can use it for marketing. So you can create from one video a week-long conversation. And I think that repurposing of it is really interesting as well. So you really have to think it through two lenses, like what's going on with my conversion right there from my live, but then what can I do with that video so I can continue engaging the audience to prepare either for my next live or prepare for something else that you have in mind.
Okay. So look, I'm what kind of, so where do you think the future of live streaming is going to go? What are we going to see? What are your predictions for the future?
Yeah,
in the West? Is it going to get
really
to 15% in? You hope so, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, will we get to 15%? I believe so. I think I think there will always be a fringe of the population that wants to engage with a human to purchase, and I'm personally one of those guys. I mean, I don't like to purchase from video and from text on website, and I always want to chat with someone. As retail is changing and is becoming more and more digital, I think that I think that, you know, that's the closest you can get from a real physical experience, because you can ask, as a shopper, you can ask question to the host that really belongs to you, and make that conversation, and like make it a conversation. So I think what we are going to see is anywhere from 10 to 15, and then maybe up to the 20%. But I do think at some point that live stream is probably going to be, and there's some conversation about that, is going to be either kind of in 5 to 10 years being shift off toward metaverse, or maybe it will be like as a separate channel. But I think the people that will be the most successful are the ones that are thinking live stream as a channel, like as a, you know, when you look at your omni-channel strategy, it's not like a marketing tool, it's a channel, because you can really convert and drive contents that is very unique to you. So that's what my encouragement is on the prediction.
That's good. That's good advice, I think. Okay, last question. What has inspired you recently? What have you done? What have you seen? What tips do you have?
Oh yeah.
How can we be better people?
I'll be a better people. Okay, cool. Well, you know, I think when I look at inspiration, I think about my youngest daughter. I just got a new baby, 4 years. She's 4 months old, and when I see how fast she's growing and picking things up, and you know, you look at what the world is about, and all those change that everywhere, and you see your kids, that how fast they adapt. I feel very inspired that even if we are in an ever-changing environment, the human will always be able to adapt to new things and pick up where things are and move forward with that. So that's my inspiration.
That's extremely positive. That's most excellent. Nicholas, it's been great talking to you, and I'm very excited about live stream. I'm going to go and look into it more. So
thank you, Trevor.
Good luck for the future.
It was really fun.
Cheers. Bye-bye.